Oh, here. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Wednesday. I'm in love. Hi. My name is Jimmy. Yes, I did get a haircut. Thanks for noticing. Hey, it's time for Picks of the Week. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-dow. Kind of another light week at the shop for old granddad. I'm kind of broke these days, so I'm having to be particularly picky when it comes to what I'm buying, which means that I'm mostly buying Marvel comics, which you've already heard me rant and rave about. So that's what we got going this week. I don't know. Support your local independent comic book artists. First up, we have Strange Academy #1. This is the Campbell variant cover. What's his name? J. Scott Campbell? Something like that. I don't normally go in for his artwork too much, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I liked how Dr. Voodoo, our brother, no, Dr. Voodoo. He's no longer Brother Voodoo. I liked how he looked on this cover. So this is a new book, kind of in the vein of Avengers Academy and, I mean, the New Mutants and stuff. Like, Marvel's got a rich tradition of superhero school books going all the way back to the Uncanny X-Men. This one is written by Scotty Young, who's I mostly knew him as an artist. He drew, he wrote and drew, I believe, a bunch of comic book adaptations of L. Frank Baum's Oz books, not the HBO show with the prisoners and everything, and a New Warriors mini and a bunch of covers and stuff like that too. But he does write also, and this seems suited to his strengths. Like he also does like children's books and stuff. And this is drawn by Humberto Ramos, who I've not seen much of. I think he might be working for DC more these days. But I knew him back when he was drawing Wolverine back in like '06, around then. '07 maybe. I seem to remember him doing the Civil War, but also the Wolverine Civil War, but also I could be mistaken. I don't know. Anyway, it's good stuff, and I'm looking forward to it because it does feature Brother Voodoo. I still call him Brother sometimes. Who's a favorite character of mine, and who I feel is vastly underused in the Marvel Universe in general. And the magic stuff that Marvel's been putting out lately has been pretty neat. Like Doctor Strange, I've always liked, but up until the movie came out, Marvel hadn't really been using him a whole lot. He'd still show up and stuff, but I don't think he even had his own book again until around when that movie came out. After that, I have Fantastic Four Grim Noir #1. This is actually a few weeks old, but Warren down at the shop had to reorder it for me because it's sold out. He told me that he usually, because I get Fantastic Four every month, so he put those in anybody who's getting Fantastic Four, but I guess I got shorted. Not the first time. Leave my hide out of this. This one is written by Jerry Duggan, who's a very good writer. He's one of Marvel's main guys, I would say, these days. Like, there's certain Marvel has done this at least since the turn of the century, where they'll have a crew of writers who are kind of like the pillars. There's usually a guy who's like kind of the head writer almost, and that was Brian Michael Bendis until he defected to DC like a traitor. Now, I don't know if it's really one person. I would have said Jason Aaron, but now he seems like he's done with Thor, he's done with his Conan run, so who knows how much he might be bailing entirely at this point. That's pure speculation on my part. Hickman is definitely the guy for the X-Men, but Duggan and Cates and Rosenberg, these are all guys who, and Ewing, they all kind of help prop up the rest of the tent. So, yeah, Duggan's really good. I was first made aware of him back when him and stand-up comedian Brian Posehn were writing Deadpool, which was a really, really good run entitled Dead Presidents. You should get your hands on it if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun in exactly the way that Deadpool should be done. And that's it. I only have 2 picks for the week. Now picks of last week. Last week was not too swell, everybody. I don't mind telling you. Let's see here. Well, firstly, I had this older graphic novel, Batman: Dark Joker, The Wild. And my friend Newman bought for me for $1 at a thrift store, and the art was good. Also, last week, I purchased this little hardcover as well, Deadpool: Bad Blood, which is part of the Marvel OGN series of their original graphic novels. First of all, my complaint is this is not the same size as the other books in the series, so now it looks stupid on my shelf. How dare you, Marvel? You can do what you want, but don't you mess with my bookshelf. Okay, so and this is I enjoyed this, but it was really clearly let's throw Rob Liefeld a Deadpool story so he can continue to somewhat cash in on this. Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, if you can really be said to have created a character that is essentially Deadshot from the DC universe. But he doesn't own it, right? Like none of these guys. That was why Rob Liefeld, along with Todd McFarlane and a bunch of other guys, left Marvel and started their own publishing company, Image Comics, which is still going very, very strong to this day. These guys are not hurting financially, I wouldn't think. I mean, Rob Liefeld was in a jeans commercial, for Christ's sake. Granted, that was 30 years ago. But I will eat my hat. Do you have a hat? I'll eat it if I'm wrong about this. Deadpool is, once again, a profitable franchise outside of comic books. Rob Liefeld doesn't have a piece of any of that. He might get some movie money, but I doubt it. So they threw him this bone. Here you go. We'll do a new original Deadpool story, and then you can have money from that. Which is all well and good. And honestly, as I was reading this book, I should have marked the page. As I was reading this book, I remember thinking to myself several times, well, the dialogue is good because Bowers and Sims are good writers. And the art, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, Liefeld gets shit on a lot, but I'm sorry for swearing. Liefeld gets crapped on a lot, but he's not as bad as all that. And plus he's had plenty of time to improve as an artist. And then, oh no, what is this? Is that a horse? Has Rob Liefeld ever seen a horse before? Has Rob Liefeld ever watched a Western? What is this? It doesn't have a neck. It's just a back right into its top of its head. I mean, good Lord, man. A millionaire, Rob Liefeld is, P.S. I don't know if he still is, but in the 90s, he was a millionaire. No, thank you. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I also read Tomorrow #1, and this was really good. I compared this quite heavily to Y the Last Man last week, and with good reason. It's very similar to Y the Last Man, but that's not it's not meant as to be a criticism. It's like I said last week, it's a dystopia story about a plague that wipes out the adults of the world. So now only anybody under the age of 18 is left alive. Our main protagonist is an autistic fellow, and while Y was not an autistic fellow, he was not exactly, how do I want to say this? He wasn't very well prepared for a life of adversity that he found when the plague wiped out every other man on Earth. And this character is similar. Plus, he has a sister. Yorick and Y the Last Man had a sister who was a much stronger character. And so we have that here where this brother and sister are now trying to... Because they've been apart for the first... They're twins. He had to go to New York to try out for the West Side College of Music, or whatever it is. She stayed at home in San Diego, California, and now they're separated for the first time ever extensively because, everybody's dead for the most part. So it's fun. It's good stuff. I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. Oh, good. I have enough time left over to tell you about this, which is not a comic book. This is a novel by Scott Phillips called That Left Turn at Albuquerque. It just came out yesterday. And Scott is a hell of a writer, very sweet boy. He's a grown man. I don't get to talk to Scott very often, but we are buddies, and I love his stuff. If you've ever seen the John Cusack film, The Ice Harvest, that was based on the novel of the same name by Scott Phillips. It was his first novel. And I read that in a sitting. And I started reading this. I'll probably finish it today because it's really, really good. So go ahead and pick that up while you're at it. And I think that's it for today. Yeah. So I'll be back next week. Hopefully I won't be as critical of everything. 2, 3, 4. D D D D D D D D D D D D D.